Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Soto-Ortiz, back alongside Bryan Stabbe for the nightcap. This is going to be a great test for the Diplomats tonight. They've already beaten Johns Hopkins, but that was a long time ago, and the Blue Jays have not lost since.
Yeah, F&M went down to their barn down in Baltimore earlier in the season, all the way back on November 25th. Came away with a 60-51 win. They've had some big wins on their record. F&M, as you said, they took their lumps, took 2 consecutive losses back in January against McDaniel and Dickinson on the road, but have really looked very strong in their last 3 games, all victories, and now back home for their 3rd straight home game at the Mazer Center. This one should be a real treat, a matchup of 2 top 25 teams. Johns Hopkins coming in at number 13 and Franklin and Marshall at number 16 nationally.
F&M, they're going to have to pick their poison tonight. They're going to have to get rebounds because they are not going to be able to stop everybody.
You know that Cedric Monet is going to get his, but it's always nice to see when some of those other players can step up. The question here is, who's it going to be? Morgan Lee has been very strong on the boards the last couple of games, but I think you look at this roster and say, all right, is a guy like Lionel Iwana, is he going to be able to fill in if Cedric isn't having the night that he needs? Or can Sean Hines be a guy that goes in and gets some boards? And can it be some of the wings? F&M has so many weapons, and they begin on defense, and they're going to need a complete team performance, not just from the 5 starters, but they're going to need some help off the bench to come out there and give them a hand.
And that steal by Figueroa after the pass was tipped. 3-on-2 to Tate. And Tate hangs in the air. Hammer goes by, and Tate puts it in. It's 6-4. 2 quick baskets for F&M.
Impressive play there by Federici. Picked off that pass. First thing he did, bam, eyes up. He saw he had 2 guys coming with him and weaved his way down the floor, found Tate. Got the assist, and now F&M back to within 2.
No doubt.
F&M keeping it close within 3 points. As we take another look at this last possession, for F&M began on the defensive side. They were able to get the tip. Monet came up with the ball on his own. And you want to watch what Brandon Federici does here. He collects the ball out on that near side wing, and the way he goes one-on-one, he makes a jab step off to his right, which you're going to see here in a moment, and then cuts back down baseline. He identifies a good one-on-one, gets a little bit of separation, draws the double team, has a second man come back over, and was still able to beat the 3rd man in, which was Billups in that low post. And that's what he does so well. He recognizes that even though sometimes he's not going to have tremendous matchups, he's able to get those shots to fall, and he doesn't let the second man come over to try and block him on those double teams, phase him, or get inside of his head and alter those shots.
And that shows you the respect that teams have for Federici, where they're going to have one man right in his face, recognizing the great outside shooter that he is, and still are going to commit another one to helping out very quickly because of his ability to drive. He's a real dual threat offensive player.
Yeah, keep an eye on that when Federici has the ball. If they shade that 5th defender over towards his side and are willing to give up a little bit of defensive coverage on one of the other guys and leave him open.
But stats can lie, and Brian, I think that's a little bit of the case with McDaniel.
Yeah.
They throw it, but they throw it a lot because they've been behind in every Centennial Conference game they've played this year.
Yeah, first in the conference in passing, 254 yards per game, 10th in the conference in rushing, and some of that is a function of losing Joe Rollins to graduation last year. He was one of the most explosive runners, I think, that this conference has probably ever seen, certainly that we've seen calling these games for the last 5 years or so. And to be able to replace a player like him, that is a tough task, and they're still trying to figure out a way to do it.
Could not hang on. It'll be 3rd and 2. The Green Terror very lucky to continue to have this football.
And that's not a pass that should have been thrown by Matty Callahan. He has to recognize that sometimes you got to look for your 2nd or 3rd option. He's been locking in on one guy. We've seen it a couple of times here in this first half. And obviously those are quick developing routes. You got to get the ball off quickly, but you also have to have the awareness. If your guy's down on the ground, it's not a ball you should be throwing.
Ryan, I always wonder when you see a running back take a fake handoff and get tackled, what must he be thinking that at that moment? Do you think he wants to shout, come on, I don't have it?
No, I think he's thinking, I did my job. I was able to sell that fake, and if they're going after me and not going after the guy with the ball, then that's one fewer guy down the field.
And he's only able to get back to the line of scrimmage, maybe not even. He'll bring up 3rd and 7.
And when you see on this play here is outside linebacker Luke Fucus going and stringing that play out. He picks up the blocker out in front of him and lets the other guys come in and make a tackle, as John Najee and Steve Elf were right there because he had to cut back towards the middle.
Good cause. Fucus is on the outside, and to his credit, Elf was not getting sucked out there. He stayed at home and waited for the cutback.
This Ursinus Bears team, very young, and you got to imagine imagine that getting a win like they did their last time out against Dickinson, which could be the biggest of many of their young college careers, has got to be a big confidence boost for these guys. And for a team that's sort of battling on the outside looking in right now, still sub 500. They took some injuries very early on in the season that's hamstrung them a bit here in 2014, 2015. You sense a little bit of momentum from this team out of Collegeville as they come into Lancaster.
You're watching Franklin and Marshall College basketball at GoDiplomats.com.
And we talked a little bit going into this contest about the weird finishes that happened last Saturday around the conference, and I don't know that we've ever seen a day into the Centennial Conference, certainly not this year, that you could describe as wacky, the way that the outcomes of the game went last weekend on Saturday. F&M falling by 1 in overtime against a 3-18 Washington College squad. Ursinus victorious over Dickinson by 3. And to see Johns Hopkins escape by 1 point on the road at Swarthmore, that one very well could have been a day in which the 3 top teams in the conference ended up losing. Hopkins instead is able to pull 1 game ahead of Dickinson and another game ahead of F&M. So knowing that's sort of the scene that's set up coming into today's game, you say, all right now that loss on Saturday really hurt, combined with the loss against Johns Hopkins earlier in the week. What can we do to start turning things around? And I think we've seen it here in the first half as they come out leading by 15 in the early going.
F&M having won 3 straight, with Johns Hopkins coming in. Not quite the same level of anticipation for Ursinus tonight.
Yeah, not to go back and harp on that game, but it was one where you felt like the Diplomats had their chances. They had opportunities to put away a team that was ranked higher than they were, that they had beaten on the road, and they just weren't able to do it. They rushed some shots. They had a poor shot selection throughout the contest, especially from beyond the arc, and then they go and continue that streak on the road, losing 2 in a row. But it feels like if there were any kinks, they've gotten them ironed out here today. I don't know if you could call this a statement game, but it's certainly got to feel good to come out and be able to impose your will after taking 2 losses consecutively against conference opponents.
Nice play by Reardon.
Absolutely, and it looks like these plays are a little bit slow developing in the backfield. That's the 3rd or 4th time they've run a counter, the running back taking a jab step, going one way, coming back the other way, and F&M's defensive front 7 is recognizing that extremely well and getting right to the ball carrier in the backfield.
2-yard loss for LVC. It'll bring up 3rd and 12.
And we're going to see AJ Koikoi check into the game on the defensive line. We were told that he was a little bit limited by some injury stuff, but he suited up today. We saw him walking around trying to stretch out a lower body, but now we see him coming in. He's making a change from a 3-4 outside linebacker to a 4-3 defensive tackle this year. And talking to him in the preseason, he says he really likes that change. He put on a little bit of weight, but he has a lot of flexibility in terms of what he's able to do along that line. So he's definitely a player to keep an eye on down there today. You like to see the confidence the coaches have in McGarity to allow him to have those zone read options. That a lot of times with an inexperienced quarterback, you say, all right, these are the plays, you're going to do it. But to give him that decision-making option there shows that they really have faith in what he's able to do.
Second charged timeout of the half. Would the game clock operator kindly reset the game clock to 2 minutes, 31 seconds?
That was very polite.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say. I'm sure his mother is very proud of his manners.
He said kindly.
He did.
I have never heard the word kindly from an official on a competitive football field. I like it. And F&M back within 3 at 8-5.
And it goes back to what we were saying. Everdell on that first attempt, she got shoved down low, sharp angle along the goal line. And for a team that doesn't have discipline, that maybe panics in that situation, you take a bad shot. But not F&M here. They set up, the second one wouldn't go. They were able to recover, and it eventually was that 3rd shot, the 3rd time they knocked on the door, that they were able to beat the keeper down low and cut the deficit back to 3.
Which is not necessarily the way that the Diplomats play under Mike Faith. Much more of an assisted goal-oriented team. Not to give away too much, I was down there talking with both him and Carol Cantelli before the game, and she said, yeah, I like watching the broadcast because I find out all about F&M Lacrosse. I'm like, wait, don't get me in trouble here.
Loose lips sink ships.
I don't know that much. Everdell down the right side, sharp angle, another save by Keeler. And this whistle, going to give it back to the Diplomats.
2 really good saves by Keeler, both in the same place, up high. And F&M has had some success when they've gone down low. I think you'd like to see them go back there to try and test Keeler in another way. Let's see where they opt to go on this shot, should they take it.
And it's going to be Everdell So the foul was away from the ball. Everdell to the middle, shoots down low and scores. Emily Everdell, the leader on this team, brings the Diplomats back within one. It's 10-9.
Down low, that's where she needed to go after those saves up high. I think that time she was thinking as she lined up for that free position, let's try something a little bit different. And that time finding the twine, 13 minutes remaining. Get another look at it here on the replay. See them eyeing each other up. Just slam that one down. Bounce shot on the angle there. Tremendous opportunity, and she made the most of it.